Welcome to NinjaCast, a photography podcast powered by Studio Ninja, the world's highest rated business management app, built specifically for photographers. Listen and learn as the most successful photographers on the planet share their knowledge to help you transform every element of your photography business. Here's your host, Sally Shaw.
Hi guys, welcome to NinjaCast. Today I'm joined by Eirik Halvorsen. Eirik's going to be talking about his career and journey so far in the industry, how he creates that authentic connection with his couples, and how he uses off-camera flash to really set his work apart. So, let's get started.
Hey Sally, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. So excited for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is super exciting.
It's such a pleasure. Not a problem at all. So, Eirik, for our listeners out there who may not know you or may not have heard of you before, can you perhaps give yourself a little introduction and tell our listeners a little bit about your journey and your career so far?
Sure. I'm a wedding photographer. I'm based in Norway, in the very south of Norway. I love to travel. I love to explore new countries and new cultures, and that's like a big thing for me. And on top of that, I really love food and good drinks. So
who doesn't? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm above average interested in coffee. I'm actually 2019. I'm a finalist in the Norwegian hand brewing coffee competition.
No way!
Yeah.
That's incredible. How did you get into that?
I guess just being curious about flavors, and the first time I really discovered like fresh coffee when you grind it up and it's like it's not roasted to death. It's like I like light roasted coffee. It just opened a new way for me with like, wow, coffee can kind of be like wine, you know, like wherever it's grown, what the climate was, what type of beans and so on. So I won't go into detail about that right now.
Yeah, we'll end up having a whole podcast episode about coffee at this, right?
Yes.
But that's incredible. So that's a real hobby of yours then, alongside your photography business.
I guess so. Like I don't drink that much coffee, like maybe 1 or 2 cups a day, but I would rather have like a really good cup of coffee than just chug 5, 6, 7 cups. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. So your photography business then, so where did that start out for you? What did you do prior to photography?
So I'm actually from the music industry. I used to play in like hardcore and metal bands way back then. And that's kind of where my photography interest started, because I started bringing a camera to concerts, and my main goal was to try to freeze the moment exactly when the guitar player is jumping or the singer is screaming, right? And I was kind of known for being the guy with the camera at concerts. So bands started asking me to do like promo photos for CD covers and interviews and like their MySpace profile and so on. So I kind of had to invest in lighting gear and, like flashes and stands and that kind of stuff. So that really took me like headfirst into the strobist world, and I really enjoyed it. I really geeked out on that. And then I went through a phase that a lot of male photographers kind of have to go through. It's like the model phase. I don't really have any experience with fashion or anything, but to me it was all about the lighting and learn how to shape and control like 3 and 4 flashes with different modifiers and so on. And kind of abruptly, or like on a whim, I got asked to have like an extra job in a local newspaper because they needed a photographer they could call in or do some odd times when things were rough. So I said yes to that, of course. But up until that, my photography had just been like my hobby, and I liked it for the sake of creating. And the first day I was at work in the newspaper, I was overlapping with the photographer that was doing the day shift, and I was there for the night shift. So she took me to like a football game and an ice hockey game, and then we got back to the office. She showed me the software, how kind of I send the photos into the desk. And then she left, and I was like the only photographer, like the main photographer in the newspaper for the rest of the evening.
Oh my goodness.
And nothing really happened until like later that evening. The guy at the desk, he said there's like what's it called, like a flooding like in a neighbor area up there. Can you go check it out and take a photo? Jumped in the car, went over there. Like a whole like football field and a path between some houses were like flooded with water. The lights were off because like a fuse had been blown or something. So I used my flashes and I set things up, and I made like the house on the other side reflect in the water, so you can see there's a lot of water here and it's not supposed to be. Came back, edited the photo, sent it in, and it was time to go. And I said thanks and goodbye. And the morning after, my wife went to the grocery store to buy some breakfast, and she also grabbed a newspaper. And she threw it on the kitchen table in the morning, and there was my photo on the entire front page of the newspaper.
Oh my
And
God.
that, to me, like, I instantly got respect for the photograph, if you know what I mean. So I immediately understood that a photo is not just for fun. It's actually supposed to convey a message to someone who wasn't there, or a message to someone in the future. And during my time in a newspaper, that just got hammered in like any situation. It was raining, indoors, in a badly lit handball arena, like anywhere, I had to come back with a photo that was going to be printed in a newspaper the day after. So that kind of really, yeah, like I said, hammered that in for me. And during that whole time, like this was in 2008, 2009, I still had a day job at the time. And since I had a camera, and since I knew how to take photos, I thought I had to take photos of everything. So I did everything, like landscapes and 1-year-olds and families and senior photos and even a few weddings. But there was nothing really more to it until I got married myself in 2012. And I've been following, do you know Jeff Newsom?
Yes.
Yeah, I had been following his blog like for 2 years. And when we got engaged, I said, hey, I know about a photographer, right? And it was a long shot. We live in Norway. He lives in California. I saw on his blog that he was traveling all over the place. So we just kind of sent him an email and like, hey, we see that like you're traveling to other countries. What would it take for you to come here? And a few emails back and forth, and we had booked him for our wedding.
Wow.
So we picked him up at the airport like Wednesday evening before the wedding. He stayed in our guest room. The day after, we took him hiking to see the mountains and the fjords. It's kind of what we do when we have visitors from out of town, right? And he did engagement photos of us outside in our street. And on the Friday, he helped us kind of decorate the venue, preparing it for the wedding. And sometime during our wedding day, I had a huge like paradigm shift inside me, where I suddenly understood like, wow, you can actually travel around the world, meet awesome people, and have them bring you with them to stuff, right? And you can call it a job. And I was like, I'd never thought about photography that way before. To me, it was always like, I have a camera, someone wants a photo, I'll go there and shoot, right? So the year after our wedding, Jeff tweeted that he was going to have a workshop, and it's in California. And to me, it was also a long shot. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't take time off my day job. But my wife really pushed me and said, this is exactly what you need right now. So I bought a plane ticket to Los Angeles, and I just went from there. So I really wanted to learn from the master. And when I came home, I collected like 40 of the very best wedding photos I've taken up until that time. I just put them in a Facebook album, and I wrote the title like, are you getting married? I want to shoot your wedding. And I put like $5 a day ad on it. And during the 3 first days, I got 33 inquiries, and I booked 13 weddings. And this was like January 2014. So the whole 2014 season, I had 20 weddings, weekend after weekend, on top of my day job. So I made like a long-term plan to like, in the middle of 2016, I'm going to quit my job and go full-time as a wedding photographer. And I really like worked really hard on the first wedding I photographed. I edited the photos, and I evaluate the photos, like what didn't go so good this weekend, what can I improve next weekend. So I found like one or two things that I could fix. Maybe it was like group portraits, like family photos, and maybe dance floor photos. Okay, let's fix this next weekend. And I fixed it. And after that wedding, I evaluate as well, like what's one or two things, and so on. So I kind of used every wedding as a stepping stone to the next one. And I still play that game. Like I still try to find like one or two things that I want to fix or improve or like ace at every wedding. So it kind of keeps it fresh for me. And also I have something to work on all the time. And like my long-term plan was to quit my job in middle of 2016. But when May turned to June in 2015, I regretted that I didn't quit my job in May.
Yeah.
So I was so determined and I worked so like targeted that it happened just like a full year before originally planned.
Wow.
And since then, I've been just doing full time and specializing into wedding photography.
That's fantastic. What a whirlwind few years for you.
Yes.
I've
That was
got
crazy.
goosebumps even like thinking about it. Yeah, what a journey. That's absolutely phenomenal. So obviously over that time, I mean, you've touched there briefly on, you know, you knew exactly who you wanted to learn from. You knew who kind of inspired you from that get-go. So how did you then go from that and develop your own style and your own look?
Yeah. So all about my photography, like from 2005 until 2010, was about crafting my own style. Like I wanted to be like, originally I wanted to be like a Times magazine headshot, photographing like politicians and actors, right? And I always like really wanted to like shape the light and like be this craftsman, so to speak. And then it was immediately after I started full-time as a wedding photographer, I went to a conference and I saw Fair Huristi. He was the first guy coming on stage, like this little Mexican, just boosting with energy. And he said, hello, everyone. And my photos are these three things. And he said 3 words. And then he showed like a slideshow with, I don't know, 30 photos. And I, as like a viewer, I could see these 3 words in every single one of his photos.
Mm-hmm.
And my mind was blown. I was like, whoa, what's an Eirik photo, right? So when I came home from that conference, I really went to town on trying to figure out what is an Eirik photo, because I kind of know what I like and what I like to shoot, but I kind of took, I think 50 photos or something, and I just found like my absolute favorites, and I made a folder, flipped through them, and I just wrote down words that came to me, like not words that I saw, like not red and sky and dress, but kind of what feelings does this or do these photos kind of give me? And I made a list of it and I rated the words, like if a word came up more times, it got more points, right? And then I took that folder and I sent it to like 10 or 15 people that I know, like photographers and friends, and hey, can you look through these photos and just write down the feelings or some words that comes to you?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the words were like the same words that I used, are very similar because it's very apparent in my photos. But some words other people saw, that many people saw in my photos that I didn't. There was things that I like subconsciously did. But this really helped me to kind of find my words and use them and actually do it consciously. And that to me has been a very powerful exercise to kind of craft and define my my photographic style, especially when it comes to portraits and like the things that I can control and how that looks.
Definitely. Those, I think that's a great tip, you know, finding those 3 words that really represent your work can often be a driving force, can't it? I mean, we've had Fur on the show here and he's absolutely fantastic. Like we love him so much. But he's, you know, he's definitely right in what he says, that, you know, you should look at all of your images and you should see those words every time, shouldn't you?
Yeah, and I've been doing a lot of or holding a lot of workshops for other photographers, and this is something that I always teach because it's so simple but so powerful to kind of get your own head to kind of be in that space, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and do you very much kind of shoot with that intention as well, that you shoot with those 3 words in your mind during a wedding day as well?
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it's so like built into my backbone that I like now it's so second nature to me that I always kind of look for those things.
Yeah, definitely. So what are perhaps your top tips for photographers that are looking to really hone in on that connection and that genuine, authentic feel at a wedding day?
Good question. To me, okay, this is a good way to think about it. Up until maybe 2014, 2015, everything about my photography was me. It was my photos, my style, it was my way of lighting, it was my way of editing. This is my website, this is my portfolio, you know? And over the course of shooting a number of weddings, I understood it's not about me at all. It's about the client. And that kind of mindset shift has really helped me to kind of really focus on them instead of me coming to their wedding, shooting for myself and just like, hey, like I'm the master here. I'm going to paint this canvas and then I'm going to, you know, like that attitude is not really good. So one thing that really helped me is actually genuinely trying to get to know my clients. And just a good way I like to think about it is, you know, when you're at a house party and you go to the kitchen to grab another beer in the fridge, and someone you know in the kitchen introduces you to a new friend or someone that you've never seen before. And before you know it, you had like a 2-hour long conversation with that new person without even going back to the living room. I want to have that kitchen conversation with my clients. So I kind of try to like do that when we have the first conversation, like or usually over Zoom. And that way I'm just genuinely asking about them, like who they are, what they like, what they do, and that kind of stuff. And I think that's a great way to start establishing that trust. And also like it will help you as the photographer to focus more on what's right for your clients instead of just shooting those gems for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find that, you know, once you've done that kitchen conversation with those clients, do you find that you consciously alter the way that you shoot for them on a wedding day?
I consciously alter what I'm looking for. Some people are very close, like with their family, or my mom is super special to me, or my sister or my brother is my best friend, you know, like those kind of things that, okay, that's like my main focus. Like I have these very important people. I'm going to like, that's my main priority for trying to capture moments. Other people are like, yeah, I'm really not that close with my family. Like we're going to have a bunch of friends over, we're buddies, you know, we're going to have a party. So like weddings can be different in that way. And
absolutely,
if I enter a wedding with like a cookie cutter recipe on how I want this wedding to look like, every wedding is going to look like the same thing. So I think getting to know my clients on a personal level really helps me to kind of hone into what's my focus today, what's my goal today.
Absolutely. So alongside balancing those, you know, the natural things that you look for and that authenticity, you also create some epic portraits on wedding days for your couples as well. So how do you find that balance in, you know, marketing that you do both of those, but also executing that on the wedding day?
Thanks. My marketing before 2015, 16 was about scaring people away. So I just posted like the most crazy artistic stuff that I could, just to like, if you came through that filter, like now we can 100% work together. But I started to realize it's not a really good approach. But I think learning the craft and be comfortable with the craft, like outside of a paid job, is really important, so that like you're not really practicing on like when you're on the clock, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, yeah, for me, having many years of photography experience before I went head first into weddings, I think has helped me having that confidence to like, I know that I can create something amazing with like whatever colors or lights or shapes we have around. I just have to kind of work through it, as opposed to, oh, this could be a really cool shot, but like I don't know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, basic photographic skills is like key to kind of letting that insecurity go and just like, no, I know how to like take a knife and like
Carve it. Yeah.
carve this piece of wood, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you were very open in the fact that you said that you kind of went straight into shooting with off-camera flash and working multiple flashlights all at once. Obviously, there's a lot of photographers in the industry that even I know that, you know, you hear off-camera flash and they go, whoa, not for me, like, don't even know where to begin. So what would your advice be to those people? Where can they get started, and how can they learn to kind of step into that side of the craft?
First of all, I think it's important, like there are two camps basically. You have the off-camera flash people and you have the, I'm a natural light photographer people, right? I think knowledge about both and knowing when to use which one is like, that's what makes you a great photographer. Using flash for me used to be a crutch. So I used flash no matter what, right? And I used to set up like 2 or 3 lights, make this amazing portrait with this amazing background and all it, like, yeah, this is it, right? But I was too focused on everything set up here that I didn't look there, because that was actually better, right? But then I was also committed to shoot this because I set all the lights up, and like if I'm going to move now, there's like 5-10 minutes of rearranging stuff, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I actually had to tell myself one day, in the morning of a wedding, I said, Eirik, today you're leaving the flashes at home. And I left the flashes at home and I just went. And gosh. I shot just available light that entire day. And it really helped me to rip off the Band-Aid of like being or having this kind of crutch to use the flash all the time. And then I slowly kind of mixed it back in. And like this was my backpack of knowledge that I could like bring up whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, how to like learn off camera flash, I think the simplest and the cheapest and the easiest way to learn off camera flash is to buy a speed light. Like you can buy a used speed light on eBay or something for a couple of bucks, and some cheap triggers and a lighting stand and an umbrella. And then one of my heroes, David Hobby, you should go to strobist.com. There's a blog post called Lighting 101, and he just takes you through like everything from like start to like a beautifully lit portrait. And then you will kind of understand the connection between the flashlight and the shutter speed and the available light and how to mix those two, because that's where people kind of step into the mud, I think, and get scared. They have too strong power on the flash, or like the direction is wrong, and they take a photo and like, photos with flash are ugly. I'm a natural light photographer, right?
Yeah.
So kind of learning like the color temperatures and the differences there, and the strengths and or a power, like how those things kind of connect. When you manage to mix those two, that's when it starts to get really interesting.
Amazing. So when you are, do you find that you use flash or artificial light more so for your portraits all the time, or do you still shoot natural light portraits?
I would say 95% of my portraits are available light, not necessarily natural light. It can be like a lamppost or lights from the ceiling or something.
Yeah.
My flash work now is more like during the evening and the dance floor, trying to lift the ambience in the room. So I really love the 2 and 3 light flash setups where everything is dark and you highlight the couple eating or whatever, right? But it doesn't really represent how it looked like for the guests and even the bride and groom. So I'm more trying to kind of just casually lifting the ambience to have like good quality light and still have it look like it felt like being there.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Fantastic. So when you're let's say that you've taken a couple out to do their couple's portrait on a wedding day, and you've got a bit of time with them in that time, how do you find that they can kind of connect whilst you're shooting with them? How do you build that? I guess that goes back to your relationship building and, that kitchen conversation again. But do you ever find that you have couples that are a bit kind of wary of the camera, and how do you relax them?
So Very rarely I have people that are like tense and like, oh, this is awkward. And I make it a huge point, and I also tell my clients this before booking, like, when you book me, it's not that photographer guy that comes to your wedding. It's Eirik. It's a friend. It's someone you know, and someone you met before, someone that you trust. So by having that approach, when I arrive at the wedding day, like not this past year, but usually it's a big hug, right? It's like, hey, how are you? Nice to see you again, right?
Yeah, like old friends.
Yes. And I want to start the wedding day like that. And that also gives me permission to come closer, or kind of to be there, because I'm not like what's the photographer doing? Like, I'm just me. And I think that helps a lot. And then another thing that helps a lot during an actual portrait session is, like, don't start with the camera. Like, leave the camera in the bag and just go for a walk, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just talk. And people like to talk about themselves, so ask them questions about how they're feeling, how has the day been so far, or like anything else. And that helps them really relax. And then I find that my excitement for things really excites my clients. So like, I'm literally sometimes laughing my ass off or giggling like a girl, and like, oh, like, this is so exciting. And I just can't contain myself. And that really rubs off on my clients. Like, they're super like, oh, this is so fun. And they can't wait to see the final product.
Yeah.
So
they like pick up on that infectious energy.
Yeah. So for me, just trying to be myself really helps, and also trying to just be a friend or a friendly guy, and not being like a robot.
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked in great depth about a wedding day itself there, and kind of the techniques and tips that you'd use there. If we kind of go a little bit now further forward, what are your processes after a wedding day?
So it's always backup and culling and editing and all that kind of stuff. In my contract, I think now it says I deliver within 6 to 8 weeks, but I always try to, like, as fast as possible, get the entire wedding edited. And after 2 weeks, I send a text message to the groom usually and ask, hey guys, are you at home tonight? And he replied, yes. And I said, well, when you are at home, both of you, can you just sit down on the sofa together with a laptop or your tablet or something, and just send me a text, say that you're ready. And then I've already made a slideshow for them. And when he says, yeah, we're ready, like, they don't know what's happening, and I send them a link to the slideshow so they can kind of watch the slideshow really unexpectedly, because they expect me to deliver like 6 to 8 weeks. And the slideshow is usually the base for my album design. Like, it ties into my entire way of shooting, where I try to have the photos visually storytell the wedding day like it is, as if it was a movie. Like, I'm really inspired by like simple stuff, like an establishing shot, like showing a house or the area we're in, and then we go into the house, and then I try to show like who's here and then what's happening. So like 3 words I use for myself is who, where, and what, to guide me to have the photos tell that. Because if I enter a building and I didn't shoot the building or the outside area before I entered, I kind of like, oh, I have to go back and do that, because I need that for the album design, to like, here's where the groom is, and here's what's happening here, and who is in that building or that room, and here's where the bride is, and so on.
Yeah.
And it really helps tie the entire album together when you kind of flip through and you see where we are going. Like, if you go to see a TV series or a movie, usually that's how it is. Like, how do you go from one scene to another? You kind of transition with an like storytelling thing that's happening, or an establishing shot.
Amazing. So you very much kind of work on that basis on a wedding day itself, that you've got that kind of end album in mind, and how, as you turn over those pages, how it's going to tell that story.
Yes. And I've been designing that many albums now that I've backtracked myself and kind of changed my approach a little bit in my shooting, so that I can make better album designs. Because I felt that I'm missing something. Like, what am I missing? Oh, I'm missing this. I have to add this up front. So kind of, it's like an evolving process, I guess, which has kind of made me make better looking albums. My approach that I tell my clients is always like, my hope is that you can give your wedding album to a stranger. That stranger can look through and kind of get a sense of who's the mom, who's the brother, and like, because the photos are telling that story.
I feel as if they were there.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's great. So, I mean, you've touched on a few of your inspirations throughout today's chat. Is there one inspirational person, one photographer, one person in your life that you look to that really inspires you the most? That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's hard to name just one, but I think what it really inspires me is like really amazing portraits. And I mean, just like of one person. Photographers like Gregory Heisler, Dan Winters, Jill Greenberg. Those are like heroes of mine that I used to look up to when I started my photography interest, basically.
Yeah.
And they've helped me to kind of like know what good light is. Like Jill is a hero of mine with her color work. I don't know if you know Jill Greenberg.
I've heard of her, yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely check out her work. It's like, it's so vibrant and so colorful, and like that goes straight to me. Like, I really, really love that.
Amazing.
And other things that, two very interesting things that I experienced not long ago. One is I rewatched Breaking Bad a year ago, and I immediately saw, oh, so this is where my compositions come from, right? And then just recently we got Disney Plus on TV, and I'm rewatching Simpsons, and I'm realizing more and more, oh, this is where my colors come from, right? Because they are like pink and yellow and green and blue and like boom, and like nothing in between. It's just like pure colors, and I really love like vibrant colors.
I love that you've managed to pinpoint like something you watched in your childhood or teenage years that has fed into your photography career. That's amazing. So if you could start your career all over again, is there anything you would do differently at all?
I think, like I touched on earlier, before it was always about me. And now, after like the last few years, I understand it's about my clients. If I could kind of go back and invest more time into the business strategy of kind of having my own thing, but be there for the client, I think that's one big thing that I would change earlier.
Absolutely. Just kind of putting yourself out there for your client rather than for yourself.
Yes. And also, I think really starting with products earlier, because in the digital era, everything was like, yeah, nobody wants prints, right? But they do. And I made the decision for my clients by just giving them all the digital files. And I've seen some horrifying use of my photos, and it's not cool. And I don't know if they love it or they think maybe I'm a bad photographer because like it looks bad on their walls. But now, like, I've learned how to take charge of that and actually provide high quality stuff for my clients. So yeah.
Just kind of touching back on that a little bit. So when you started to provide products to your clients, where did that all evolve from? And, you know, how did you go through that selection process?
I've actually included albums on almost every wedding I photographed since like my first wedding in 2008 or 9. But it was like a blurb coffee table book, like those consumer books that anyone can just like log on and buy for like $20. I think it was during a workshop the first time I saw like a real handcrafted album printed on beautiful paper. I was like, whoa, this is something different. Because before that, any like quality products that I had seen before had always been shitty photography, and shitty photographers selling great products to their clients had made that to me that I'm not going to be that like, I'm not going to sell products just for the sake of selling products, if you know what I mean. So I had to go to a workshop and actually see a beautiful handcrafted album with amazing photos. Like, whoa, this is something I should start doing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a real tangible person. I love to be able to have a physical album. But saying that, I got married just over a year ago and still haven't got my own album yet. So it's my mission for 2021. I must get it printed.
Yeah, you should. Actually, to be honest, we got married in 2012, and our photographer, Jeff, he didn't provide an album. And also we thought, hey, we're just gonna like, let's see what we can remove. Like, he had some prints and stuff that was included. Like, can we remove this? We don't need that. And like, yeah, sure. And I have to think now, it's under 2 years since I printed our wedding album.
That's
and that's just because he didn't do that. So I understood, like, it's my responsibility. I have to provide that for my clients, because if not, life will take over and things will like, what's the phrase? I will do it next week when things settle down, right? But it won't.
There's always a better time to do it tomorrow, isn't there?
Yes. So kind of, I think it's a service that we provide to help our clients, like, hey, you want this and you need this, let's get it done.
Amazing. That's fab. So if you could add one final piece of advice for our listeners, maybe something that's made a big difference in your life personally or your business life, what would that one piece of advice be?
Network.
Love that.
I think I made a rule for myself in 2014 that I will attend at least 2 conferences and or workshops every year. And no matter where it is or what it costs, like, that's stuff that I have to make room for. And that alone has helped me tremendously to talk to and get to know other vendors, talk to and get to know other photographers in other countries, and like making friends. And I have really good friends that I met just because I'm a photographer and that person is a photographer, and we met at a conference.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do that, I would still be at home here, like complaining over stuff on Facebook or whatever, and, you know, be an angry dude that, everyone is doing this awesome stuff and I'm just here, like, you know. So network and reach out to other photographers and attend workshops, attend conferences, as many as you can. And actually, I want to end with a rule. Like, I make rules for myself. It feels it maybe sound kind of weird, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
When I attend a conference, I'm never allowed to sit down at a chair or a table where there's no people. Like, I can't be one sitting down alone expecting people to come to me. So I make a game out of it. So I find a vacant chair and I go over and I ask, hey, is this seat available? And they say yes, usually. And then I introduce myself and I ask questions about them. And that's like the best way to make new friends.
I feel like there's a whole focus for you in your business, in your life in general, on just getting to know people genuinely and who they are as a person and building that relationship.
Yes. I mean, that's what life is about, right? Yeah. I mean, there's so many amazing people out there. And if you just go and don't talk to them, then you will never know them.
Love it. Fantastic. If our listeners would like to know a little bit more about you or get in touch, how can they do that today?
Everything about me is usually just my name. So Instagram, Eirik Halvorsen, Clubhouse, which is the new thing, Eirik Halvorsen. EirikHalvorsen.com is my website. That's mainly the platforms I'm at, or on Facebook.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I have enjoyed every single second and I've learned so much today. So I know that our listeners definitely will have done. So thank you again for taking the time to join us, and hopefully we'll be able to catch you soon.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Not a problem at all. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay guys, that's everything from me today. Thank you so much to Eirik for joining us. I know that I learnt loads, so you guys definitely will have done too. If you'd like to see the show notes, you can head to www.studioninja.co/episode 23. Please don't forget to rate us on the platform that you're listening on. A little bit of love goes a very long way. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NinjaCast, brought to you by Studio Ninja. Beautifully designed and super easy to use, Studio Ninja will help you manage your leads, clients, shoots, invoices, contracts, workflows, and so much more. To learn more or start your 30-day free trial, go to www.studioninja.co.